Check, check. Can you guys hear us now? I can see sound moving now, so I'm hoping you guys can hear us. I see the needles moving. It hasn't.
Yes, there we go. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. So sorry about that, guys. Whew, man, it's been a crazy day today. It's been a day of technical difficulties. We've had a good couple weeks of no issues at all. And of course, today it's the day, as you guys may have it. We appreciate all you guys on Instagram that are here as well today. As mentioned earlier, we cannot see your comments, so unfortunately I can't read your questions, but at least you guys can be a part of the show and be a part of what's going on. To all you guys out there that are on Facebook, thank you and welcome to Redcat Live. As always, we have the wonderful and amazing Mr. Matt Jackson, the Matt scientist. I'm going to say that until I'm blue in the face. I don't care. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to be here. Glad to have another day where I can come into Redcat and make cool stuff and come talk to you.
Ah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome, right? Hey, I'm telling you, it's Wednesday. It's Wacky Wednesday. You guys can hear us now, and it's at least going in the right direction, right? So let me see. Friends don't let friends. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So nonetheless, guys, so one of the reasons we're here today is we're here to tell you about something really exciting. Matt has been working relentlessly on this amazing new software update that we're going to talk to you guys about, and we're going to let you guys know where to get the update and how it works and what you can do with it. To be honest with you, I don't know much about it. Matt says I'm on a need-to-know basis, and today I did not need to know. So I'm going to get educated just like you guys are. So Matt, let's dive in.
All right.
What are we doing today? What are we talking about? What's the platform?
All right. So as many people may have surmised, this radio, the LR6X that ships with the 64, was, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, not just designed for the 64. We designed it for anybody who wants to make an RC lowrider, right? We were like, okay, what do you need to have in a radio if you're going to have a lowrider radio? And so, you've got these two front switches, right? And on the 64, only the left one does anything. That's the channel 3 switch. The channel 4 switch is there for if you have a 2-servo setup in the front where you're going to have a car that can manipulate the front end independently, right? And so when we were thinking this through, we thought, okay, well, it would make sense because your buttons on the right, your lower rear and raised rear buttons and switch manipulate the whole rear end together. And so the ones on the other side do the same thing for the front end. But what we didn't anticipate or prepare for when we were working on the software for this radio was in the use case of the 64 where you have a single servo for the front, what other people might do for channel 4. So it turns out we've got a lot of people who want to do crazy stuff with channel 4. They want to have it operate a convertible top or a sunroof or roll your windows up and down or control your lights or volume on your in-car stereo or whatever. But what that meant was you'd have an issue with whenever you'd hit the drop front or the raise front switches, you would wind up causing issues with whatever other thing you wanted to control with channel 4. So now if you go onto the website and you go to the 64 or the radio page or anything like that, and you click on the download button, there is a link to a page which has instructions for how to update the firmware on this radio and has a link to download the new firmware for it.
Right. And I actually just shared the link on the comments of Facebook. So it is available for you guys right now there. The easiest way to find it is just go to redcatracing.com and you go to the specific product of the LR6X radio, and it'll have the hyperlink there for you as well.
So really all it does is it adds an additional mix in the radio setup screen. So if you go to the mixes all the way at the bottom of your model setup, there is now a mix 4 there. And what Mix 4 does is it is a switch. When you turn it on, and I might have this backwards, but I believe it works. So, and it's correct in the instructions on the website. If you have the switch on, these two buttons, the button and the trigger, operate the front end just as they always have. If you turn it off, then those two buttons no longer control channel 4, so that you can do whatever you want with channel 4 on your radio and not have them acting weird when you go to hop or whatever.
And that's what that does for a lot of those guys that are new in the hobby, is that allows you to literally use that switch and have the capability of not just stuck with a linear switch. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah.
You can use it as an on-off switch in that fashion. So let's say that you wanted to run some lights off that fourth channel. Well, now you can turn them on and off without giving that channel full power every time you hit that hop feature or the drop feature. So in that capability, if you are the end user that wants to add a fourth servo, you can have that option to use that still as the remote came. And if you wanted to use it as a switch source, let's say you want to do lights, someone like Jeffries, who used a separate channel for the roof, the sunroof that he did, something of that nature, you now have the capability to use that fourth channel in that capacity. So in other words, we went in, we hacked it, we did it, a full firmware update to allow you guys just a little bit more functionality to your remote. So it's not just, it is what it is, and you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. We listened. We want to make sure that we're providing the best of what we can give you guys anyways. And that feature today happens to be that. Yeah, smoke machine.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see what people do with it, because you could do a lot. And when you get really into the weeds, like, you can use that PWM signal from the radio, which is what the transmitter puts out to a servo that tells it what position to go to. You could read that in with a microcontroller like an Arduino, and you could do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Like, you could have it start a sequence to open doors and trunks and stuff. Like, if you got really elaborate, there's just there's no limit to how much crazy stuff you could do.
So, I mean, think about it, guys. I mean, like, for all those guys out there, and we have a lot of awesome builders, in on the scene that just build amazing things. And, I can see this being as a cool feature. Obviously, we see people taking the trunks, opening them up. We see folks opening up the hoods. What's to say you guys couldn't potentially add a servo to open your hood, and now you guys can control that in that channel in that fashion? Or, as we mentioned, maybe your audio. Maybe you want to run an audio switch, a signal switch, so that you can turn your amp on if you run aftermarket radio in your system. Now you can toggle it on and off as well. So, in that fashion, we really wanted to provide you guys the capability of doing more, right? And whatever we can do in that fashion, we want to do. A lot of you guys that purchased the 64, in the actual box will come the data link cable that you guys will be plugging into the back here, and then from there plugging into your computer. So it is available. You guys should have gotten it with your box. And again, the link is in the description or in the comments here. And you can also go to redcatracing.com directly and look up the LR6X radio, and it will show up there as well. So, what else, Matt? What else? I know you got some ideas that we can.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about with this. I mean, but we're not just here to talk about this radio, right? We're here to talk about all things Redcat. So, if you guys have other questions about stuff, let us have it. We'll do our best to see what we can say. I mean, if you guys want to try to grill me about what we've got coming out in the future, you can try, and I probably won't give away anything.
Right. So, Matt, we've done a lot of work with the 64. All in all, you did a lot of fine tuning. The people wanted to fix the toe-in issue. We got, that in essence, a correction made. You created a downloadable file that people can use.
Yep.
I know that we're also working on getting these kits in so that we can get out to people, and
should be very soon.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think we're about a week or two away. We're getting close, guys. It just bear with us. We're going to give you guys a way to sign up to get those taken care of, as well as the bumpers that have been problematic for so many people with being so fragile on this car. Jasmine Hernandez, a Redcat no prep car. Matt.
Oh my goodness, if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me that question, even at work. I mean, you've asked me that question how many times?
I think we've talked about it quite a bit.
When you were you went to that no prep race up in Vegas a few weeks ago, right?
Right. I was out at King of the Streets with the squad. We had a great time. We got to see a lot of fast cars, and my thing was I was just cruising around the pits with the 64, playing music, having a good time. But it really got me thinking, like, man, that would be so cool to do something to that capacity.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something we've talked about, right? And it's like we have to identify a market where we can have a competitive advantage there. Like, what's our edge in that market, right? For a long time, Redcat was like the entry level leader, right? Like, here's how you get into bashing on the cheap for your first RC car. And now with like Lowriders, we're kind of starting the whole show, right? There's basically nobody out there doing it. So we're kind of setting the standards for those things. And, you know, we kind of got to look at everything that are possibilities out there for what we're going to do and figure out what our strategy is for it. So,
I got another question for you. Someone said they would love to see a rear-wheel drive drift car from Redcat. Any chance of something like that, maybe?
Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to take a four-wheel drive drift car and make it rear-wheel drive. But as an RTR rear-wheel drive drift car, it's also, again, something that we have discussed. But it's not anything that is currently on a development timeline for the very near future. But it's certainly a scene that has grown up a lot just in the last couple of years.
Right.
And I'm really excited to see where it goes. Like, personally, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'd love to do it. It's a project that's much closer to my own automotive passions. Right. So that would be very interesting.
Dude, I think it'd be really cool. I mean, adding a gyro, getting that counter steering, maybe creating some.
I think gyros are cheating, but.
Well, yes and no. But I mean, let's face it, we have to make an end user car. I mean, look at the hopper.
Yeah.
The hopper was set up to easily hop. And what did I tell you? The first thing I did was I took weight out of it.
To make it harder,
To make it harder on myself because I wanted the challenge of it, right? RC Patina guy asked, any chance of gold bumpers and trim kits?
Well, that's certainly something that also people have been asking for. We're looking into it, seeing what the options are. Okay. So, I mean, these are things like that are out there just, you know, begging to be done. Like, everybody's asking for it. Everybody's asking for all these different bodies and stuff. And it's like, you know, it takes a little while to investigate these things, see what it takes to make them, see who can make them the best and how we can source them the best and things like that.
Right. Hey, I got to shout out TJ Jones. His comment, for those on Instagram, you guys are going to love this one. Wife said, if I bought the Lowrider, I'd have to move out. I'm really going to miss that woman.
That's dedication, man.
Yeah. I don't think she's watching.
I tend to think there might be something already wrong there.
Right. Hey, trouble in paradise, right? Hey, TJ, right on, man. Much love. What's up, Ray? He loves his Kaiju. Thank you so much for that. Let me see. Let's see here. What else we got? Redcat Streetcar. Well, it kind of goes along the lines of what we were talking about earlier. Let's see. A Redcat 6x6.
You know, that's something everybody keeps asking for. And we actually put out detailed instructions on how to build a 6x6 using a Gen 7. But right now it's like I don't think the market for a 6x6 is big enough. They're actually not good at crawling. So it's like what's the point, really?
Right. So and I got another great question for you. There is the mini Mad Scientist 2.0. Aaron wants to know, what is your favorite element on the periodic table?
Oh, gosh. From an interest standpoint, from like a scientific standpoint, or from a useful standpoint? I mean, that's a loaded question.
It is. It's very loaded. Exactly.
I mean, you could say something crazy like Einsteinium or something that only exists in a lab for a fraction of a second.
Right.
That's kind of interesting.
Well, all right. So, Matthew Flores, man, much love, brother. What can you tell us about anything in the near future? Is there anything that you can spill? Anything that you can?
What can I tell you?
Yeah.
I think that's how he pronounced it in his text.
What can I tell you?
Not much. I mean, I can respond to specific questions, right? Like that's about the only way you get.
So you guys got to get a little more specific. What are the chances of a new body for the 64 platform?
I think they're pretty good, right? Like the 64, and for those of you that might be new to this, like we're making a lot of assumptions here that you know what we're talking about with the 64. The wheelbase for the 64 is very unique, right? It is a roughly 10th scale example of the old GM wheelbase that was used in all their full-size cars. It was like 113 inches, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very long car. The aspect ratio is very weird versus most modern cars and versus a lot of cars on the road. So there's not a whole lot of bodies out there that would fit, right? So we've been looking at ways to do other things that might satisfy some of those desires that people want for other things that would fit. So there's some things in the works, so stay tuned.
You guys got to read between the lines. Like, you just got to replay this section and read between the lines, guys. That's all I'm going to tell you. All right. Let's see here. One more thing. Let's see. Chances. We're going to swap it up a little bit and start talking about some other products that we also offer at Redcat. What are the chances of potentially a Gen 8 straight axle?
A Gen 8 straight axle. Well, so here's an interesting thing. The Wendigo is based on the Gen 8 platform, right? Mm-hmm. So actually the central chassis plate is basically the same. So the internal mounting spots between that and the Gen 8 are basically the same, which means that the mounting geometry for the Wendigo axles works pretty well with a Gen 8.
Ooh. Now they are wider axles.
They are wider. They are a significantly wider axle. So it might not be exactly what you're looking for, but you know what? There's a lot of people out there doing the thing that I despise, which is running wheel extenders. And for them, hey, it's a wider axle. There you go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Let's see. One piece axle pinion for the Gen 8 V2 would be great. Okay. Is that doable? Is that?
I mean, it's probably doable. It's something we hadn't looked into. That's the first time I've had that request or heard it. So put it on the list.
And people want to know, well, one person specifically wants to know over and over again, what are the chances of Redcat ever getting into boats?
You know, we talked about that a lot, and it's generally just not a sustainable area of the industry. Like, there's just not enough people into it.
Right, right. So, and guys, you guys have to understand from a business standpoint, there's got to be enough interest and knowing a market that's going to sell to be able to invest into it, right?
Yeah, and you know, I made this proposal a while ago to actually get into really high-end boats. Like, I was fascinated by these giant RC warboats that I saw, like ships that are like, I say warboats, I mean warships, but they're huge. They're like 14 feet long, and they intentionally like shoot at each other and sink each other. I thought that'd be a great thing to do, but I got shot down on that, so that's not happening either.
So just know, Ryan, boats have been talked about quite a bit. We just are not at the moment where we could. And then these weird guys, these ASD Crawlers RC, they want to know, how about a benefit build? Have an extremely good cause in mind, and I bet you couldn't guess what it is.
I mean, that's probably all you.
That is all me. You know what? Those guys, I don't know. I don't trust those guys. They're kind of weirdos. I think I have that ASD patch tattooed on my body somewhere.
It's tattooed on your truck.
That too. Okay, he says, not everybody, just me forever. I get you, Spike. All right, Spike, instructions really quick. We're going to recap and we'll continue with the questions. For those guys that are just chiming in right now and just joining us, we, at the beginning of the show, talked about the LR6X Radio update firmware. It is available on our link. It's also in the comments a few different times. And you can go straight to our product page of www.redcatracing.com. And you can go to the actual radio itself, the product, and there will be a link there already. It's there ready for you with full instructions on how to download and step-by-step guide as well.
It's under the downloads tab on the product page.
Exactly. So can you include engraving nail decals? No, Flip. We can't, because Flip Chris bought all of them. So he bought the world stock of nail engraving kits. So no, we cannot.
I think all the rest of them are probably stuck in the Suez Canal.
Right. Any chances of bringing back the Terra Moda 1/8 scale?
No, I think if we did another 1/8 scale, it would probably be an entirely new vehicle. Because I didn't design the Terra Moto, and I think I'd like to have my hand in it if there was going to be something cool like that.
Right.
So
one of the biggest questions that we keep getting asked over and over again too, Matt, is what are the chances of us maybe making a Prius body of some kind? No Prius body. Tesla maybe?
No, I mean, so Tesla licensing is weird. I've tried to get into that, but that's a tough one.
Oh, there's one I haven't seen in a while at all. Actually, what are the chances of making a street bike?
So
it existed before. I know there was a company out there that made them, and I know the name. Actually, in fact, I own it.
Redcat experimented with it too before my time, and it just didn't take. It's a small enough niche, right? And a lot of people want to. I mean, the majority of people in RC, it seems like, outside of very specific niches, want to bash stuff, right?
Yeah. So
like a street bike, you basically have to have multiple of them to race them. It's not going to be great for bashing or just running around by yourself, I think.
No,
I don't know.
We've seen a couple of the manufacturers try it. They did an off-road style. They've done I've seen a nitro version many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
But we don't see them around for a reason.
I mean, right? I love bikes. I would love to do that.
Oh yeah. Can you imagine having like a V-twin style nitro? That'd be dope.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's keep going. A Gen 9 24th scale.
24th scale? Why stop there? So, I mean, 24th scale is like something that a lot of people have done, right?
Mm-hmm. It's it's a couple of different manufacturers are doing it. They have their own, again, niche market, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like even smaller than that. It gets harder the smaller you go.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time we actually talked about doing something like a 54th scale that like the keys on your keyboard would be an obstacle.
Wow.
So I don't know. It's something we're interested in, but we're not convinced that the market's there for it. Like right now, like our main focus is on trying to support the 64 as much as we can because the response for it has been so amazing. Like people have just been snapping it up and they just sell out as soon as they come in. And like I'm really excited to see how long they stay in stock when the next shipment comes in a week or two here. But it'll be. I think there's a lot to do still on that platform before we really branch out into doing a whole lot of other original stuff.
Sure. Brandon Tomey wants to know, what are the possibilities of tanks and warships?
Oh my God, I would love to do that.
Right.
Like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
I would love to do warships, but I think it's a pretty niche market.
Dude, I like the ones, there was a company that made some that shot airsoft, right?
Actually, yeah, they were at Proline by the Fire a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's right. They had
demonstration.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It was sweet.
All right, let's keep going here, guys. Man, we appreciate all the questions you guys are dropping for us, man. It really is awesome. We one of the reasons why I love having Matt on is because I can easily leak stuff out to you guys, and they don't want me doing that. So Matt's my censorer, so he knows when to like take the mic away.
It's hard to slow him down. So yeah, one thing, if there are things that you guys really want, go on the Facebook page and talk about it. I'm not sure I can really accurately describe how easily swayed by social media the owner of the company is.
Yeah, and you guys should really know that he actually watches the pages like a hawk. There's times where I'm like, oh, he's chill. He's not doing anything. He's been in meetings all day. Then all of a sudden I'll get hey, did you see this picture that was shared? And I'm like, oh, I did.
Yeah, I mean, there have been instances over the last couple years where I'll get a link to something on Facebook and he'll be like, figure out how to produce this right now.
Right. So Jordan, and I'm sorry, Jordan, I don't want to mess up your last name. I believe it's Matsuda. Wants to know, did anyone figure out how to bunny hop the 64? Yes. Actually, yes, Jeffrey's.
We did a long time ago when we were testing the Reef servos. If you buy a couple more of those Alacritus servos, and you put two on the rear, you can get all four wheels off the ground pretty easy. But
would that still be on the nickel metal hydrate battery? Or would that be on the 2S?
Yeah, you can do it on a nickel metal battery. You could do it on 2S. You get a little bit less voltage sag. One thing that people have found out is when you do that and you install all of those servos, you can actually start to brown other things out. So like if you have the light kit installed and you hit all 3 of those servos at the same time, your lights are gonna flicker because it's not supplying enough voltage.
Right. BEC is just not strong enough.
Right. And that BEC is the most amperage that Hobbywing could fit into that case for us. So
Gotcha.
they made a custom ESC specifically for the 64 so that we could even be able to do all the hopping and have the servos that we do. So putting 3 of them on there is pushing it to the limit.
Right. And Spike was asking, I guess, instructions. Do you know if there are any instructions for converting a Gen 7 to a 6x6?
No, there are. It was on the old Gen 7 crawler group on Facebook. So if you search that group, it was back in probably late 2017, and I believe we might have put something about it on Thingiverse as well.
Oh, there you go, guys. So, Spike, there you go, brother man. Go on a search, find it, reshare it, get it back on the top of the list, and we'll try and pin it out for you guys.
Yeah, we had a picture of it. It was an orange Gen 7 Sport that we had built as the prototype for it. That was the cover image for the Gen 7 page for quite a while.
Nice. Let me see. What about a potential rock bouncer as the no-name brand that was recommended or talked about? Any chance we can get into
Well, I mean, like you're seeing a lot with what's happening with the ones on the market is they break a lot. And that doesn't really bode well for
sales.
Well, yeah, I mean, and customer service and people being angry that their thing broke. Rock bouncers, if you want an actual scale rock bouncer, it's going to break all the time. When you see full-size rock bouncers going up there, going up a hill, tumbling down and breaking their $80,000 axle almost every run, yeah, I mean, you don't want to replicate that experience at scale. So it's a difficult balance to walk, right? Like, it's something we talked about it a lot. And again, it's like when people get into that, if they go and they see a rock bouncer at the store, they're gonna be like, wow, the thing looks really cool. And then they go and take it out and like, it doesn't behave the way they want it to because it's too like top heavy. You can't bash it like a lot of things. It's designed to be a rock bouncer,
right,
which is a very specific thing.
And it's again another niche market, and it's actually been growing over the years. And you guys had released more of a U4 style truck, which is the Wendigo, right?
Right.
And that's based off of a scale U4 racer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of that we see with the Wendigo. It's that like there's some people that get it and they think it's going to be like a kaiju or something. They can just go jump it all day, and it's kind of top heavy. It behaves like a U4 car.
Right. I got a great one too, because I actually am really into this, and I would love to see something like this doable. Black Turtle Garage asked a question, which is, what's the likelihood of being able to come up with rally style wheels and tires and potentially shocks upgrades for either the Lightning or the Thunder Drift?
I'd have to think about that. I mean, I think it's probably more likely that we might do a whole nother drift chassis before we would do a whole lot of support for the existing vehicle. I'm not really sure where we would land on that, but it's an interesting thought.
Right. Well, I know that
there's some parts out there.
Well, I know,
and a lot of them are interchangeable.
I know across the pond it's very big. The whole rally scene is huge. I know that we saw some of that at Pro Line by the Fire a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think it just gives people that option to use that same platform for multiple uses.
We did have a 5th scale rally car for a while.
Did you?
Yeah, there's a Rampage rally car.
No way.
Yeah. If you want to go big.
Do we have any of them just laying around that I could destroy?
I think there's one in the break room.
Oh, I'm going to go play with it. All right. Where are the belts for the Thunder? You can actually find them on our website at www.redcatracing.com. We don't actually see a lot of them break, to be honest with you. But, they do wear and tear over time and use. Let's see. What else do we got here? Man, so many awesome questions, guys. Thank you guys so much for all these awesome questions. A one-piece body for the 64? No. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna take over that one easily, because the reality is, guys, with the amount of detail that went into the 64 body, there's just no way that you can physically mold a one-piece body.
It depends on the body, right? The 64 is a 5-piece body because you couldn't get all the details and the undercuts that are in that body. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be doing the Impala justice. And we actually did our original body for the 64. It it looked like crap. We were trying to make a one-piece body, and it was the wrong aspect ratio, and it didn't have enough detail, and it just didn't do it justice. And we felt, like this is an important enough car for this whole culture that we need to do it right.
Right. Great question. RC Patina Guy, is Redcat teaming up with anyone that is creating other type of 3D printed wheels designs now or in the future, like how RC nerds are with Shapeways?
So we've actually started doing a lot of in-house 3D printed parts that we're selling for the parts that people want, so that we don't have to go through Shapeways. And this was a thing, right? I was actually in the process of setting up a Shapeways store.
Oh wow!
Because we've had so many requests for so many different parts, and so we've been kind of growing this internal process because we've got so many people at Redcat that are hobbyists that have 3D printers. That we're enabling them to be the manufacturers and then sell them through the Redcat website. Like I'm selling those chain steering wheels, for example. And now we've got another guy who's manufacturing the magnetic body mounts for the 64. And those are great. And those are actually probably going to go into production as an official part at some point, but we don't know when. So right now he's making them until we can prove there's a demand for it, so that we say, hey, we don't need to make a mold for this. You can go print 100 of these at a time and do that sort of thing. So if there's parts that you want, make the suggestion, and those are things that we can go out and see if it's worth our while to go and try to print them. As far as wheels, printed wheels are difficult, right? Because it's hard to get them to be strong enough. Mm-hmm. You can do some nylon centering on things like Shapeways, but those are going to wind up being really expensive wheels.
Right, and we're talking about remember when we first started seeing a lot of the 3D printed wheels being used on the hopper?
I don't even think those are 3D. I think those are cast in a 3D printed mold.
But you do remember when the hopper came out and people started wanting to put different wheels and tires on them?
Right.
We started seeing some snap off.
Right.
It was it was kind of comical at first. Like, whoa, what are you doing?
Well, and there is a need for other wheels, right? Everybody kind of recognizes that. The wheel we started with, we were trying to make kind of like the size of the tire is very much, as everybody points out all the time, is very much the stock size tire for a 64, which is not a lowrider size tire.
Now, please explain to everyone that's following why it is that we chose to make the 64 look like a stock car.
Oh, because there's a lot of people out there that are fans of the 64 that aren't necessarily lowrider guys. Mm-hmm. And also, very much, part of lowrider culture is making it your own and doing your own thing. So we thought it'd be best that the neutral ground we started at was something like what the original car was that you started at. So it's a 14-inch wheel, but we have the concession there that it's a simulated wire spoke. But really, the point that I'm trying to get to is the geometry of the wheel is very specific to the 64. Like, we didn't go take an off-the-shelf wheel and say, oh, let's design a suspension around this. It was the other way around. We had to decide what the offset of the wheel was going to be, what the width of the wheel was going to be, based on the constraints of the suspension for the car and the body of the car, and just making it look right. And so when you use a lot of off-the-shelf wheels on it, it might not work. Like those 3D scale parts wheels, everybody has problems with, like, trying to get them spaced out enough so that they'll clear the control arm. And you had some.
Yeah, I did. I had quite a bit of issues. I had you print me up a couple of different hexes. Mm-hmm. Had to try and space them out. I ended up shaving the lower control arm to make them work. They're great looking wheels. Don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, they look cool. The chrome finish isn't my favorite, but I did like the overall look that it had. And then we thankfully started working, and we're already in the works at that point on the our low profile tires.
Yeah. Actually, the low profile tires we recognized that was going to be a thing very early on, before the car came out, like 6 months before the car came out. So the molds have been done for a while when those they came out. So, like, we are working on other accessories based on all the feedback that we get. They are coming. I can't really say, hey, exactly what those things are right now. I can't give that away just yet. But
he can't, but I can. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say anything.
No, you like your job too much.
I love my job. We will say this. 2021 will end up being a great year for Redcat Racing as far as, the amazing stuff that we're going to have coming out for you guys to enjoy. So stay tuned for a lot of great stuff on the platform of the 64. We love the platform. We're fans of it. We don't just make them and play with them and expect you guys to buy them. We make them so that we can play with them too. So quite often I see Matt on his lunch break, and he likes to go for walks, but he likes to walk his hopper. Usually people walk their dog. Matt likes to walk his hopper, and I'm over there behind him with the camera, chasing him around.
Well, I mean, that's why I do what I do, right? I got into engineering because I wanted to be able to play with things that either didn't exist yet or were things that I thought were potentially out of my reach. Like, I first got into this by wanting to be an automotive engineer and actually working at an automotive company.
Right.
It's like, that's the way that I could go and play with $2 million prototype cars and stuff,
right,
and not have to buy them myself.
Exactly. Brett Shea wants to know, any chance of a G-body GM car?
A G-body GM car. Oh, you mean like a Monte Carlo?
Yeah, like a Monte Carlo.
He's trying to recreate,
like a Regal.
I see what he's saying. He's trying to recreate the training day car.
Cutlass, the training day car. Oh, right. That was an iconic car too.
It's a 79 Monte Carlo, right?
I believe so. I'm not sure. Yeah, it is a 79, I believe. Yeah. It was a great looking car.
That'd be really cool. The problem is it definitely does not fit the 64 chassis. It would look just like our original 64 that was the wrong aspect ratio, looked wrong.
Right.
That would look just as wrong, but in the opposite direction.
Right. Yeah. And of course, the wheel wells, the wheelbase wouldn't even be the same either.
So you need a whole new chassis for that.
Yeah, you'd have to be a whole new platform. Jeez, man.
If you want to do it justice.
Well, yeah.
For like as important of a car as that is for the scene, you have to do a whole new
platform. Yeah, you got to go big or go home, right? Yeah. At the end of the day. What are the chances of getting a Redcat Donk edition or a scraper?
Or scraper. At that point, like, why not a slab?
Right. Hey, I'm saying if this whole G-body thing takes off, who knows? Maybe you can slap some big donk.
I do see a lot of G-body donks. That's I guess you see a lot of Fords too.
Yeah, mostly found dead on the road or or getting towed behind a tow truck. Let's see. Will there ever be a potential for a 64 Impala kit? I know we offer the bodies separately, and the body's a kit to build, but any chance of making a kit?
I guess it depends on what level of a kit you're talking about, because the body is kind of a kit. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're not selling the chassis separately. Some people might consider that a kit. Like, if you look at, when you say kit, do you mean like the Gen 8 pack, the pre-assembled?
So when I think about a kit, I'm thinking everything comes in the box. I get to assemble my differentials myself.
So like a kit you would get from like an Axial car or something.
Yeah. You build it ground up. It comes with no electronics, so that you can choose your favorite go-to electronics.
Yeah. There is some potential for that, I think. Right now, maybe not, because the RTR is still like, it's selling really well, and we're going after a market with the 64 that is by and large, there's a lot of people that are interested in this car that have never had an RC before. So it almost has to be an RTR for them, right? I mean, some people might get so excited about it, they're like, oh, I could build that from scratch, so I'm going to do it, right? But like, I think starting out right now, it makes sense to stick with an RTR, but like, we can't rule it out for the future, right? Like, I guess there's some potential for that.
Yeah. Then we got a vote for making the 520s. You ever see the 520 wheels?
Yep.
Yeah. That's I hear that a lot. I got that a lot at the car show. I was at the Arizona Super Show this last weekend, and man, it was awesome just to be able to get out and be a part of the scene.
Talking about the Coker tires, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the low-profile tires we have are actually they're based on those. Mm-hmm. They actually resemble most Cokers you'd see on a lowrider more than some of the aftermarket wheels that people would buy, or the tires that people have been buying, but they're not stretched at all. And most actually aren't really stretched that much as you would expect. But it's a thing, there may be some refinement in the future if there's enough demand for it.
There you go. Yeah, and there's that vote. I would love a training day Monte Carlo. I mean, who wouldn't, man? You know, that's an awesome, iconic car. 79 Cutlass.
Well, and you're saying it wasn't a hopper either. Well, I mean, and this isn't just about hopping. Yeah, we made a hopping car because we could, because we thought it was really cool. But what we're finding is there's a lot of people that are really just interested in having something that's super detailed that they can make into the lowrider that they've always wanted.
Right. Because for like me, growing up in the scene, the lowrider scene, I was into lowrider bikes, and I would go to the lowrider shows, the super shows that were always in town. And one of the biggest things for me was the model cars, right, and seeing them hop. But the detail that they put into those 1/24 scale models was amazing. So the fact that when we released a car, and of course, I was not working with Redcat when the car was released. I bought the car. I was on the first wave of buying them as a fan because, and I remember telling Matt, when we met and did an interview with you, like, I didn't care what it cost. I didn't care what it was. I had to own this thing,
right?
And it was one of those things where it wasn't even an impulse buy. It was I'll figure it out. I'll put it on a card. I'll take care of it.
Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, I need it. I want it. It's going to happen. And, what has come of it is what you guys see on the daily, on the pages. And, we have the new people coming in and they feel that they got ideas. And it's kind of cool to see the brainstorming. And they're going to make the same mistakes that we all made when we first started playing with our hopper as well,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot that gets changed as we go on, right? Like eventually we're going to get a shipment of cars that the radio update is already going to be installed, right?
Yeah.
Once we use up all the radios that have already been produced in 64 production, those radios will start showing up with the correct firmware or the new firmware already installed. The current firmware works fine.
Right.
But the new firmware just allows you to do a few other things if you know what you're doing. And it's a relatively advanced thing. It's like not necessarily for the everyday user. But like there's those other things that eventually get incorporated as you go.
Right, right. What's the parts? Yeah, so they're going over that. 64 Bel Air edition. Man, we're getting wild with these El Camino.
Yeah,
I see the El Camino.
I actually,
I would love an El Camino.
I looked at the possibility for making El Camino. I wasn't terribly thrilled with it, and I want to get everybody in the community's opinion, because the problem I ran into was the bed. You'd basically have to do it like it was a tonneau cover,
right? Because
of the servos in the back. If you wanted to be able to raise it up and down, if you want it to be able to move the suspension at all, you have to have those servos back there, and that compromises the bed depth so much. So, like, would you be satisfied with an El Camino that looked like an old school Holden Maloo because it had a hard tonneau cover on it?
And I don't mind the hard tonneau cover as long as it doesn't have to have the humps that we have to have. But that may be the case.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. Everybody sees the speaker humps in the rear of the 64 interior, and that's entirely there because of the requirements of the control arms back there.
Brendan told me, great question. He says he'd like to see us create like an accessory pack that would include like a lowrider bike, something
That'd be cool.
that we can display next to
cars. That'd be neat. That would be cool.
Maybe a file or some kind, hint, hint, hint.
What are you trying to say?
I'm down if you are. Sleep is for the weak. Come on, Matt, let's do it.
As the boss keeps telling me, there's 24 hours in the day, Matt.
Right? We're only consuming about 25-30% of it. Let's see that. Yeah, Tony, we know. We've seen quite a bit of people using the hard bodies on there and having to narrow the chassis pan to make them fit. Let's see what else we got. A truck bed spinner, so like a mini truck setup.
Yeah, I mean,
we talked about that earlier.
We did. We've talked about that, and that would be a really cool thing to do if it appears that the lowrider RC niche could kind of branch off into the mini truck niche. Like if that's enough of a thing, I would love to build that if I got the green light. Man, just the engineering involved in making something like a bed dancer would just be...
Wouldn't that be cool? Like having the bed come up, tilt, and then move
like
side.
Jeffrey's made one, right? So we started working with Jeffrey's. I saw the video he made of his bed dancer. I was like, damn, that'd be cool. Let's do that. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Here's another one. We're on the course of Impalas. That's what we based off of our first hopper off of, which was probably the most, in my opinion, iconic lowrider car ever. And I will stand behind that no matter what. What are the chances of like a 58, a 59, maybe a 62 or a 63 Impala body?
Well, so those are all cars that were on the same platform from GM, right? So they basically fit with the same amount of modification that we had to do to make the 64 fit. Right?
Interesting.
So those are all potential. And there was actually a poll in the early days of the Lowrider group. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was probably back in January.
I should probably find it and like pin it back up, huh?
Right, where it was asked what other body you'd be interested in that same wheelbase, and like the top 7 or 8 voted for results in that were like those years of Impala.
Interesting. You know, when I was at the car show, there was Los Amigos Car Club, and they only cater to the bombs, the 49 Fleet Masters, the Deluxes, right? They call them bombitas, you know, and
they don't quite fit.
They don't, no. But in aesthetically too, to recreate a body like that with so many curvatures, it can't be an easy body to make either or design.
And most of these aren't. And actually, from a curvature and a CAD surfacing standpoint, the 64 is actually fairly simple compared to a lot of the other cars in that range. Mm-hmm. But those cars from the 40s, they were more like rolling works of art, right? They didn't necessarily have the importance to the lowrider scene that the 64 did, but like, damn, they look cool. So like, if it'd be a cool thing to do, but I haven't put enough work into looking at those bodies to see how much compromise would have to be made to make it fit on the 64 chassis, or if that doesn't work, then is it a popular enough thing that it's worth like designing a whole chassis around?
Right. And you guys have to understand too, when we get suggestions for bodies, and we get suggestions multiple times a day.
I'd barely get any other work done because we get so many suggestions.
Right. But know that just having an idea isn't enough, right? There's got to be enough behind it. We have to know that we can move a certain amount of them to make it worthwhile to invest into it, right? It's all, supply and demand in that fashion.
And like, just like you guys, like I have all kinds of cool ideas all the time of stuff to make, but like, unless I can make the case that it would sell or that it's something that other people besides me want,
right,
I'm never going to get the go ahead to tell the factory to make the molds to make it.
Right. So guys, to all you guys that are just chiming in, man, we appreciate you guys stopping by. The topic of the day, we have Matt Jackson. We've been able to talk about a lot of different questions that have popped up, talking about a lot of different platforms that we sell here at Redcat Racing. But the fundamentals of today's episode was based off of the LR6X Radio firmware update, which is available on our website at www.redcatracing.com. Go to the product page itself, and it will be under the tab of downloadable files. The link is also available in the comments early on. We'll make sure we'll try to share it with you guys a few more times, and we appreciate all the amazing questions that you guys have shared with us. To all you guys on Instagram that have chimed in, we appreciate you guys as well being a part of the show today. Again, my apologies for not being able to see or answer any of your questions, but as always, we appreciate you guys being here, and we hope that at least you guys can take something awesome out of today's episode as well. I'm gonna go on a limb. You know what? I'm gonna do this. The first person to give me 3.
Oh gosh, what are you doing?
I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it. The first person that can name me 3 models of catastrophic environmental actions as names for products that we sell, I'm going to set you guys up with something. So do your research, comment in this. The first person that comments and gives me 3 names for 3 products that we sell that are catastrophic environmental attributes.
That's such an easy challenge.
It's an easy challenge, right?
So easy.
Yeah. So, the first person that comments them and puts them in, and I check it, and I can check timestamps, I'm going to send you guys something from me personally. So, we'll see what's up. I want to know. You guys do your research. You got to find out where we came from as Redcat to know where we're going, is what I got to say.
Yeah, we don't do that so much anymore. We used to name a lot of things after environmental disasters, didn't we?
Yeah. So, hurricane, volcanoes, and
kaiju doesn't count. That's not so much a natural disaster. I don't.
No, it's more of a monster. Right?
Monsters, yeah, I think fictional monsters don't count.
Right. Speaking of downloadable files, any chances for y'all releasing files for the hydro tanks?
Hydro tanks.
Yeah, the tanks like the pumps and that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, we'd have to design them first.
Look at that. Craig Thompson, and confirm it.
Tell you what, look, if somebody in the community makes a really legitimate copy or a file of what it looks like, like we can totally feature that, and we can include it in the 64 collection on Thingiverse.
There you go.
For everybody to share. So if like somebody wants to be famous on Thingiverse for making something cool that a lot of people are going to love,
right?
Hit us up.
So Matt, one of the first ones that came up was a hurricane, a volcano's harpoon. I don't believe he's close, but he's not there. I don't believe harpoon was one.
Yeah.
Earthquake, hurricane, and typhoon.
I think that qualifies.
I think that does qualify. Tony Gutierrez, at the moment, you're the man. Yeah, Wendigo, Terremoto, and lightning.
No. Lightning's the only one of those that's a natural disaster.
Yeah, volcano, hurricane, and earthquake.
Yep.
That's one. So at the moment, it looks like the winner that has a correct one based off of receivance time is Tony Gutierrez on the earthquake, hurricane, and typhoon. Wow.
You're going to tell him what he wins? Or is it just going to show up randomly?
I'm going to reach out to him personally, and I'm going to take care of him and send him something cool. So, guys, I appreciate the love. I appreciate you guys. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Anytime.
As always. Next week, we got a great show for you guys. And I know that we've been doing a lot of 64 stuff. And trust me, we're going to grow and expand Redcat Live to do a lot more of features on other stuff. But you're not going to want to miss next week's show. Next week's show, we have none other than Candy and Chrome joining us on the show. So we'll be able to talk 64 paint jobs, and not just any paint job. I'm talking about some epic paint work. So
it is epic.
Right. And if you guys don't know Candy and Chrome, he's been in the game. If you have a Candy and Chrome paint job, you've been candied. Like, it is a big deal in the lowrider community. So, man, guys, again, much love. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys on Instagram as well for being a part of the show. We appreciate all the love and support, and we look forward to giving you guys another episode here shortly. Thank you.
Peace out, guys.